Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Willis Jernigan with Koch Industries, the Director of Health and Safety out of Wichita, Kansas, and welcome to the 2021 AFPM National Occupational and Process Safety Conference. I know we were all excited to get together in person this year, but given the circumstances in New Orleans, AFPM and the Safety Committee agreed that it was best to pivot to a virtual event this year. With that said, we have managed to keep all the conference content and on behalf of the AFPM Safety Committee, we are all looking forward to participating in these sessions. Myself, along with the committee, would like to thank Laura Sweat, Susan Yashinsky, and the rest of the AFPM staff for their hard work in such a short time frame to get us here today. I encourage you to actively participate in these sessions, whether it be a Zoom call or a chat. We have a variety of virtual formats to deliver the conference content over the next few days. Let's talk about navigating between sessions. You can click on the agenda on the left-hand side of your screen. Each session will indicate if it is in the main stage, where we are now, a Zoom format, a pre-record, or a poster session. You can look at the posters and pre-recorded content at any time. However, to participate in the live chat with the speakers, you must attend the session at the time listed on the schedule. The official poster session will be today from 12:30 to 1:30 Central Time. Lastly, there are several on-demand sessions. Click on Demand at the top of the agenda page to access these presentations. The speakers will periodically monitor these chats. You will also be able to contact speakers and other attendees through the Set Up a Meeting feature or by clicking on Attendees on the left-hand navigation bar. Attendees can update and edit their profiles by clicking on the Settings icon in the upper right-hand corner. If you would like to be contacted, make sure your settings reflect that. Lastly, please take advantage of the photo booth. We will be sending fun swag to the attendee with the most creative photo at the end of the conference. So please enjoy that, have a little levity, and participate in that. This platform will be available for a month after the conference, and most sessions will be recorded for future playback. Before I introduce our first speaker, I want to provide the brief antitrust reminder, which will apply to the entire two-day conference. We are in fact competitors in business, so it's important to keep the antitrust guidelines in mind. AFPM has provided this environment for us to share ideas that benefit the industry. As we share, it is important that we avoid any conversation about pricing, customers, suppliers, product offerings, or the competitive landscape. If you find yourself in a conversation that you feel is in conflict with these guidelines, you are required to take the appropriate action to stop the conversation and notify an AFPM staff member. Now onto the program. Our first speaker is Bob Herman, Executive Vice President of Refining for Phillips 66. Bob has more than 35 years of experience in various technical and leadership roles within the oil and gas industry. Bob previously served as Executive Vice President, Midstream, as well as Senior Vice President, Health, Safety, and Environment, Projects and Procurement. He joined Phillips 66 as a Senior Vice President, HSE, and previously worked for ConocoPhillips as Vice President, HSE. Please join me in welcoming Bob.
Okay, I think I'm here. I can't tell, but so good morning. Thanks, Willis, for that introduction. Keep telling me to start the video, but we'll try. So good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'd much rather be standing in front of all of you in New Orleans. I'm sure you'd rather be in the audience there. It's really hard to sit here and talk to my iPad, so I drank extra coffee this morning. Those of you that know me knows that's a big lift because I drink a lot of it. But COVID dashed our hopes again. But I think Chet and Laura and Susan all made the right decision in not gathering us together in New Orleans. Quite frankly, I hope it's the last time they're faced with this decision. I, like you, I'm tired of COVID. I'm tired of what it's done to friends, family. I'm tired of what it's done to our industry. I'm tired of what it's done to our country. We'll get through this, but the sooner, the better. So on with the show here. So next slide, Laura. Okay, so today I'm going to give you my views on safety leadership, but first a word from my sponsor. So a little background on Phillips 66 and where we come from on safety. So we're a $50 billion enterprise, and most of you know us as a large refiner, but we do a lot more than that. Over the last 9 years, we built a substantial midstream business, including the largest NGL fractionation hub, storage facility, and export port outside of the facilities at Mount Belvieu. This is located down at our Sweeney refinery and has really established us as a significant NGL player. We own 50% of CPChem along with our partner Chevron. And CPChem's world-class assets in the ethylene and polyethylene business, primarily on US Gulf Coast, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. We're also a large marketer. We operate under several brands, as you can see at the bottom of this slide, but we're primarily in the US, the UK, Germany, Austria, and a little bit in Switzerland. So substantial operations across the world for us. Most importantly, we expect all of these businesses to operate safely every single day. We have a simple vision, that's to provide energy and improve lives. And we can't do that unless we have operating excellence day in and day out. Before I go on and talk about safety leadership, I want to just say a couple things about our industry. What you do is important. It's important to your company. It's important to the community where you live and work. It's important to our country. And quite frankly, it's important to the world. Without us, the quality of life for many, many people in the world takes a giant step backwards. In my opinion, this is going to be true for decades. The demise of the refining business is greatly overstated. Sure, there's a lot of people out there that want to make us a villain right now and they want us to go away. But quite frankly, the technology to replace the liquid fuels that we make isn't ready for prime time. The aspirational goals of banning internal combustion engines in the near term really is not a reality. More energy is going to be needed in this world. Today, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet. It's projected to grow to 10 billion people by 2050. And every one of those people is going to need energy to live a fruitful and productive life. We provide that energy, and I believe we'll continue to provide it for decades to come. Now, we are going to go through an energy transition, and it's incumbent upon us to protect our environment and be part of producing lower carbon intensity fuels. But that does not mean we don't need to produce liquid fuels. We need to participate in things like carbon capture and other ways of making our fuels lower intensity. But these are big projects and they're big things. And our industry knows how to get big things done. You're good at executing on big things. And we will be part of the energy transition in the future. So thank you for what you do. It's a noble thing. Okay, now back to our regularly scheduled programming here. Next slide, Laura. So I'm humbled to be here today and talk to you about safety leadership. And I show you these two charts, not to show you how good we are, but to show you that we've been on this journey for a long time. I've been at this game for almost 40 years now. It's a long time. And I have seen our evolution through thinking about safety and our operating excellence capabilities. When I entered this industry almost 40 years ago, we would stand on our heads, literally sometimes, to prevent a unit from shutting down. And it wasn't so much because we were worried about lost production. It's because we didn't have the confidence that we could shut it down and start it back up without breaking it or catching it on fire or some other bad thing happening to us. That's changed today. We, as an industry, are confident in our ability to operate. We're confident in our ability to shut units down. We're confident in our ability to flawlessly start units back up, many times without traditionally hitting the flares like we used to. Our thinking about personal safety has evolved quite a bit too. I can remember my first safety celebration was because we'd gone 1 million man hours without a lost time injury. Now I have facilities that go multiple years without a recordable injury, and we're greatly disappointed when that slip, trip, or fall comes along and ruins our record. We've come a long way. We've made good progress. Maybe even we've made great progress, but we've still got quite a ways to go. As an industry and as a company, we're still hurting people. We're still allowing our products to get outside primary containment. And until we drive both of those numbers to zero, there's more to do. And as good as we are as a company and as an industry, I never forget that we're only as good as the lowest common denominator and the last 10 seconds. This is a business of details. It's a tough business to work in. It's a tough business to lead. And we demand excellence every day in order to put up these kind of numbers. Next slide, please. So for Phillips 66, it starts with 3 words: safety, honor, and commitment. These are our values. We had a unique opportunity in 2012 when we spun out of ConocoPhillips to start a new company, one with 140 years of history, but a new company nevertheless, and start these things from scratch. We agonized over our vision and values for days, weeks, even months. And our first attempts had a lot of words and a lot of subdots. And quite frankly, it looked like something we'd paid a consultant to write. And eventually we settled in on a simple vision: provide energy, improve the lives of the people that work for us, improve the lives of the people that live in our communities, improve the lives of the people that buy our products. Right? And we settled, it's only 4 words. We settled on even a simpler set of values: safety, honor, and commitment. Safety, we protect each other, we protect our environment, we protect our communities. Honor, we stand behind what we say we're going to do, and you can always count on us to do the right thing. And we're committed to excellence. We strive every day to live up to these values. We don't always make it. We fall short on many occasions, but it's not for lack of trying, and it's not for lack of our people not understanding our commitment to it and our desire to reach 0 injuries and 0 incidents. Next slide, please. So on a personal level, I believe every leader's got to ask themselves, what do I really believe? And once you figure that out, you communicate it to your people. So here in a nutshell is what I believe. I believe everyone can go home safely at the end of every day. In fact, I believe people that come to work have a right to go home safely at the end of every day. I believe those same people come to work wanting to do the right thing. And I believe that if I lead them, they will follow, particularly when it comes to health, safety, and the environment. My job to motivate them to work safely every day. First of all, though, I have to be a motivated safety leader. I ask you, are you motivated to be a safety leader first every day? So I'm going to tell you a story, and I'm going to tell you the story not for any other reason than I hope it motivates somebody out there to be a better safety leader. It certainly is my motivation for the last 20-some years of my career. I want to take you back to February 23rd, 1999. This is a time when we still viewed PSM regulations as something, as a burden put on us by the government. we didn't look at it as an opportunity to drive excellence within our operations. So I was a tech manager at a refinery, and I'd been the maintenance manager up until just a short time before February 23rd. There was a job going on at the refinery. In fact, it had been going on for several days. Not really an unusual job. We had a naphtha draw line off a tower, similar to the one shown here in the picture. Line came off the tower at a block valve about 100 feet off the ground, came down almost to grade to a control valve station, block valve, both sides of the control valve, bypass around the control valve with block valve, went on to another pressure vessel with a block valve there. We've all got hundreds of these within our refineries. Not an unusual setup. This line had plugged up. And for several days, we'd had a maintenance crew out there working with the operators, trying to unplug this line. I had some of my best people on this job. And all I can say that on February 23rd, they got lost in the forest and they could no longer see the trees. They'd convinced themselves that this line was empty, that it was plugged solid, that it needed to be removed and replaced. And so that was the job they set out to do on the morning of February 23rd. 5 people were up on the tower, and they decided they needed to cut the line at about the 80-foot level and start taking it out in sections, lowering it to the ground. So they were set up, they had scaffold, they had the crane, they had the hacksaw, the power saw, they were ready to go and doing their job. Unfortunately, they'd gotten so engrossed in the work, they hadn't recognized the hazards. And they cut into that line against block valves and block valves only. The crude tower is still in operation. And when they cut into that line up at the 80-foot level, the investigation showed later that the pressure balance in that line allowed naphtha to come back from the downstream pressure vessel through the control valve station. First rule in refining, right, is no block valve ever holds. Bypassed the valves, went up the line, and rained down on the 5 workers up on the tower. Naphtha eventually found a hot flange on that tower and ignited. You can imagine what that scene looked like at that point. I was the incident commander that day, and the absolute low point in my career is having to call the coroner and ask him to bring body bags. We killed 4 people that day. We maimed a 5th one for life. 4 people died because we didn't recognize the hazards and we didn't prevent the hazard from hurting them. Chemical Safety Board came in and investigated that incident. Matter of fact, it was one of the first investigations that CSB ever did. It was long and painful to get through the investigation. And at the end of the day, what did CSB say? They said management had failed to provide a safe workplace. They said management had failed to recognize hazard. They said management had failed to provide processes and procedures to identify hazards and to prevent people from being affected by those hazards. Now, quite frankly, in the first few days after the incident, I didn't believe that. I believed human beings had failed. I believed my best people had failed me. The maintenance supervisor on this job, actively on this job, was my best guy. He was captain of the rescue squad. I thought this guy ate and breathed safety. What I really came to realize is I loved this guy because as the maintenance manager, he was somebody who got things done. And when you're the maintenance manager, people who get things done usually turn out to be your favorites. I had one of my best pipe fitters on this job with him. In fact, this pipe fitter had been the pipe fitter trainer for several years, just prior to going back to the tools, and was on this job. These were my best people, but somehow they failed me. Over the course of a few days after that, though, I began to realize that I was wrong about they didn't fail me, I failed them. I was a lousy safety leader. Now, I wasn't directly involved in setting up this job or running this job because I had gone from being maintenance manager to tech manager, but I was a leader in this facility and I was accountable for the work that got done. each and every day there. And I had failed to lead these people and allow them to do their job safely. After that, I said, never again will I be a lousy safety leader. Never again will I allow people to get into a position where they can be seriously hurt or worse. So that's what motivates me. There hasn't been a day since February 23rd, 1999, that I don't think about that incident. And am I, as a safety leader, doing enough to prevent the next one? I have not always been successful in preventing bad things happening every day, but I can assure you it is not for lack of trying, and it is not for lack of thinking about how do I motivate people, how do I lead people to do the right thing and to work safely. So next slide, please. So how do I think about safety now, and how do I try to be a good leader? First of all, be demanding. When I came back to refining in 2017, after my stint leading our midstream organization, I set for 2018 a new personal injury goal, PRIR, of 0.1. I think the best we had done at that point in refining was 0.16. But let's go to 0.1. I took our process safety event goal to 0, because process safety events concern me more than anything else in my business, more than people getting hurt, because often it's a slip, trip, or fall, or a pinched finger. But I worry about process safety events because they lead to really bad outcomes. Now, Dean Mignatis at the time thought I was nuts. I think he might have even told me so. He might be right. I get a little crazy sometimes when it comes to trying to prevent bad things from happening. But when I set those goals as the safety leader, there was no doubt in the 8,000 people's minds that work in refining for Phillips 66 that I was serious about reducing the risk in our business and improving what we do every day. So demand excellence, especially when it comes to investigating your incidents and getting to the root cause. We're getting better at this, but it is a hard thing to do. Sometimes we have to learn the same lesson over and over again in this industry. It's certainly true within our company. But we strive to know the real cause. It is no longer acceptable to say that the procedure was always inadequate or the training was always poor. That may be true in some cases, but most often it's a deeper root cause. Is the equipment that the operators, the mechanics are trying to use actually adequate for the job you've given them to do? Or are they having to make do or operate around subpar equipment? Worse, have we normalized bad behaviors? Have we normalized bad operating practices or bad maintenance practices because that's the way we've always done it? Just because that's the way we've always done it doesn't make it right. It just makes it old. Demand that your people follow your processes and procedures and that they strive to be excellent. Remember, one of the things I believe is that everybody comes to work every day wanting to do the right thing. But occasionally you're going to run into a person that does not get it. Get rid of them. You're doing them a favor. You might be saving their life. You might be saving the life of a coworker. And I don't care if we're talking about a first-line employee, a first-line supervisor, a second-line supervisor, your maintenance manager, your operations manager, maybe your refinery manager. If they don't get it, get rid of them. Because if they can't operate and run a safe facility, they're never going to run a profitable facility and one that can do great things for you. Might seem harsh, but it's better to be harsh than to be dead. Be visible. Get out in your organization, talk to your people, talk to the people at the front lines, understand their job, understand what we're expecting of them, understand if they understand what you expect. Know if the tools, the processes, and the procedures that you're asking them to use are working, are making their jobs easier to do. Never miss an opportunity to influence your folks when it comes to safety. Now, my boss, CEO, Craig Garland of Phillips 66, never misses that opportunity. He's visible to this organization. He gets out to all the refineries once a year, and he never misses the opportunity to talk about operating excellence. In fact, if he's speaking publicly to investors or a town hall group somewhere or a chamber of commerce, he always talks about operating excellence, because sometimes the audience he's talking to may or may not care, but our employees might be listening. He doesn't want to miss that opportunity. So we've got a saying in our company, and I'm sure it's not unique to us. We attribute it to Randy Austin at our Bayway refinery. Randy was the first one to ever say it. We heard it. Right? What's interesting to my boss fascinates me. My boss is interested in safety. I'm interested in safety. And as a safety leader, I'm pretty sure my employees know I'm interested in safety. So I hope it fascinates them. And then lastly, always do the right thing. Sure, it might cost you some financial loss. It might cause you some financial pain in the short run, but financial pain is a lot easier to get over than human pain. I'm sure many or all of you espouse stop work authority within your organizations, but stop work authority is not just for frontline workers. It applies to you as a safety leader. Have the guts to make hard decisions and always do the right thing, because your people are watching. And what you do is much louder than what you say. Next slide. And finally, be bold. Dare to try new things. Serious incident reporting and management was a bold thing that we started back in 2012 when we formed Phillips 66. This was a Dean Mignatis brainstorm. I called it something else the first time he told me about it. It took a while for me to get over the "are you nuts" moment. We're going to report and document and follow up on everything that happens across our refining system, regardless of the outcome. No harm, no foul, but we're still going to go through the process. Took a while for Dean to convince me, but you know what? He was right. And I know we've shared this program, and AFPM has helped develop a program that many of you have adopted. It's the best thing we've done to improve safety and reduce risk within our refineries. And it has become the keystone of the way we think about eliminating the hazards and our failures within our operations so that we can do it a little bit better the next time. At the time, it was a pretty bold step to step out there and do. Listen to your workers. For example, if your joint health and safety committees are still arguing about what color paint ought to go on the stair treads, then I would suggest that neither one of you are doing your jobs. You as the leader and they as the representatives of your workforce, you aren't being leaders in safety. You're concerning yourself with petty things, and you're not working on the big things that are going to get people seriously injured or do damage to your facilities. Listen to your workers. They will tell you what they need because they come to work every day wanting to do a good job and wanting to do what you want them to do, but you got to listen to them. Lastly, don't be afraid to embrace new technology. We've been on a 2-year, 3-year program now of digitizing and adopting technology and improving. And I can tell you some of it's very uncomfortable when you start out on the path, but we've learned that technology can open a lot of doors and a lot of pathways to reducing risk across our organization. It, again, causes people to give up some of the old ways of doing things, but you get a clean slate, a new piece of paper to lay out, what do I want to do and how are we going to do it and how are we going to make people safe? It compresses the ability to do a lot of steps into a system that doesn't slow work down and still gets work done, allows us to be competitive, but at the same time, reduces risk within your operation, reduces risk to your people, and allows you to attain excellence. And at the end of the day, just do the right thing. I don't know what that is in your facility. Sometimes I don't know what it is in my facility, but we strive hard, work hard every day to always do the right thing. So that's our story. That's our safety leadership position within Phillips 66. I thank you for listening to me today. It's, like I said, it's hard to talk to my iPad, but we're going to move on now. And I think we're going to do a few Q&As. So.
Yes. Good morning, Bob, and thank you. This is Fritz Ken with Marathon Petroleum. That is some really inspirational stuff to start our conference, and I really appreciate your insight and your dedication to safety leadership. It's those kinds of leaders that can make us all better, and I really appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thanks, Fritz.
I do have some questions for you, though. So we've got a lot of safety professionals and process safety professionals out listening to our conference, and you kick it off for us. And I was wondering if you could give us some insight. You know, you're an operational leader now, but you've been, you know, an HES leader in your past career, and obviously you're an overall safety leader for Phillips 66. But what advice would you have for those professionals to influence their leadership, whether it's their area team leader where they're trying to get something done at a refinery, or it's their, you know, a maintenance manager where they're maybe, you know, not seeing eye to eye on how to do a job, or even their general manager at a refinery, or even moving up further in the organization, someone like you. How can they, do you have any advice on how they can influence those folks?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, and if I think back over the years when I've been in all those type positions, and my HSE professionals needed to influence me, and in fact, I put HSE professionals and your chief inspector kind of in the same bucket out there, right? They
Yep.
seldom come through your door with good news.
Right.
But what I tell both of those groups today is be tenacious, right? Have your facts and figures straight, know your business, right? And then be tenacious. The best safety professionals in our company are the ones that won't take no for an answer. You have to sometimes play to the personality of the person you're dealing with a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon you to make those people listen, and don't give up. And I alluded to it a little bit in a couple of my comments, but many times my safety professionals have to come back for 2 or 3 bites of the apple before they get it through my thick head that this is the right thing to do. I appreciate that tenaciousness. I think they have to develop that open dialogue with the people they have to influence most. They can't always start with the word no, right? It has to be no, but here's what we can do. Yes, I'm going to help you get your job done. Be part of the solution. But at the end of the day, don't let things slide. Just be tenacious. And eventually, thick-headed operators like me will listen.
Okay. Good advice. Thank you. You talked about a lot of things that you've done in your career, and specifically in setting up the new company, P66. But what's the one thing you would point at that's made the biggest difference in your success, you know, as an organization, and your safety performance, you know, that sort of sets you guys apart, or you believe sets you all apart from the industry, and motivates, you know, you and your employees every day?
Yeah, you know, so that's a great question. I think if I think back, even prior to the formation of the company, when we were still part of ConocoPhillips, but within refining, we operated as a division within the company, and this probably goes back 20 years. And I don't know that it's any different than any company out there, but it was probably 20 years ago that we adopted stop work authority. I mean, we didn't exactly call it that back then, but we started down this path of actively telling our employees, every single person in refining, that they had the right to stop a job if they felt it was unsafe, if they were unsure about the next step, whatever it might be. No harm, no foul, don't abuse it. But if you're unsure about the next step, let's stop. We got a lot of smart people. Let's gather. Let's doing it. Quite frankly, it took a long time to get everybody to believe us, because that's not exactly how this industry had been for the previous 20 years, right? But we had to put our money where our mouth is. And I'll talk, there was an incident that occurred within our company. My predecessor, Larry Zambo, was in my role at the time. And the chief inspector at one of our refineries, we had an old tower, it had rivets on it. He identified that we think we've got a problem. They're impossible to inspect. We don't know where we are. This occurred in one of the highest margin periods we had seen in decades. Larry shut that tower down. We exercised stop work authority till we could go open it, clean it, inspect it. And we actually couldn't assure ourselves that it was safe to operate. So we kept that unit down until we could replace the vessel. It cost us multi-millions of dollars. But it also sent a strong message across our company at the time that we're going to walk the talk, we're going to exercise our stop work authority, and we're not going to operate when we're not sure we can be safe. So that's one. The second thing I think we did on the personal safety side is we adopted, number one, people have the right to go home safe every day. I use the word people. I don't use the word employees, because it applies to everybody that walks through our gates. And 15 years or so ago, we stopped treating contractors like contractors. Contractors became people who worked at our facilities, just like our employees. Same rights, same expectations, same protections. No longer was it acceptable if we had a job that maybe our employees didn't really want to do. Well, you go find a contractor, they'll do it, right? Those two things, I think, set us on a course over the last 15 years to drive our safety performance in the right direction.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, we've got a question from the participants. It is, how have you closed the gap between work as imagined? So, you know, if Dean comes up with a new process or procedure that you want to do refining wide, and kind of at the high level, and then so that's kind of work as imagined, that this is how you want the work to happen in the field, and then work as it's really done, you know, at midnight on Saturday night. You know, take a lockout tagout example, or some, you know, emergency job that's a unit's down, a unit's going down, and there isn't as much supervision around. How do you guys handle that? What's your philosophy on that? How do you influence your leaders around that?
Yeah, I think so. That's a great question. And I think that's been an evolution for us. Again, that it took years for people to understand that we were serious about, we're only going to work safely. And we still battle against it, that people on the off shifts or on weekends maybe don't want to quite follow our rules. We're pretty demanding when we find this stuff and we root it out. It's just not acceptable to operate differently after 6 p.m. as it is after 6 a.m., right? So we haven't cracked that nut completely yet, because we still find it in the investigations we do when people get hurt, that maybe they didn't do exactly what we wanted them to do. We try to reward success. We try to correct the poor behavior or the operating practices. And we've got a long way to go. The one thing I will guarantee you, though, is that our supervision knows and understands that it doesn't matter what time of day, what day of the week it is. We expect them to follow our processes and procedures. And if they need more people, get them. If they need to shut it down and go to a safe place, shut it down and go to a safe place. We'll wait until we can gather the right people, the right tools, the right MOC engineer, whatever we need to go get it done. It's a never-ending battle. I'm not going to sit here and profess that we've cracked that nut completely. In fact, we had an incident just about a month ago where somebody got a very minor burn, but they weren't following the process and procedures we've got in place that would have protected them. So yeah, it's a constant battle.
Yeah, I think that is one of the most challenging things when you see folks do things that you don't expect that they're going to do. You know, if you've given them the training, if you've given them the right tools, and then they go outside of that. And I think that's that whole human performance, human reliability nut that we're trying to crack and help them to understand, and drive home that point that nothing that we're doing is so important that they need to take extreme measures to get themselves in a bad situation. So it's an evolution for sure.
Yeah, there's almost always a bad outcome when you think you have to get in a hurry and not follow your own processes.
Yeah. Wanted another question from the group here. What's your advice? You know, and you've seen this, and you mentioned it in your opening remarks. The evolution of refineries that had incidents on almost a daily basis. There was a LOPC, there was a fire, there was something happening, to now running our refineries, you know, much more incident free. So we've got a workforce coming in that haven't seen those bad things happen, haven't been through an incident like you described in 1999. What's your thoughts on how we can create that same sense of urgency without actually having the incident?
Yeah, that's something we struggle with all the time. Is I don't want them to learn the incidents from the incidents I had. Right, I used to be really good at putting out exchanger fires. Right, now I tell our emergency response crews, right, I want you to be the best trained, most bored people on the face of the earth. So one of the things we've done is, as we go through the changing of the guard again in the workforce, is we created a program within Phillips 66 called Shield Your Future. And it's a set of really well done videos where we dredge up the sins of the past and we interview people that were involved in jobs that went very badly. In some cases ended up in fatalities. And we put those short videos together, and actually with a worksheet and a guide for our frontline supervisors to be able to use these with their work groups to try to impart those lessons. And I've been blown away by how good these videos have come out, because the people that are still with us that were involved in those incidents, when they talk about them, it's their February 23rd, 1999, and there's passion around how they feel about that, and the aftermath, and the effect on their families, and the effect on the families of the people that were injured. They're pretty powerful. So I think if you can do something like that within your own company to try to bring history alive just a little bit, it'll go a long way in influencing those people, because, you know, they're not going to get the chance, hopefully, to see some of these bad incidents we have. There used to be an outside consultant, Charlie Moorcraft. Maybe many of you have seen him over the years. I'm guessing Charlie's probably completely retired, but Charlie was involved in a bad fire, propane that bled on him, and suffered significant burns. And he used to go around and do a motivational speech. And he people like him just aren't available, I don't think, anymore. But that's what we've tried to recreate, is hear from the victims as to why we need to work safely and don't repeat my mistakes. Yeah,
that's good advice. Hey, we're getting close to the end, but you mentioned something that I would like you to just kind of maybe close out on. You know, we are faced every day in the media with the fact that there are folks that are against our industry, that want to ban. You know, we hear bans about internal combustion engines. What, from a motivational perspective, with your 40 years of experience, can you help us with to understand that our industry isn't a dying industry, that we've got a future? Could you give us a few more words around that, and then we'll close out with anything else you'd like to impart upon the group today?
Yeah, so you know what, the people that work in our industries are the best ambassadors for our industry. And AFPM in particular has done a great job of helping us assemble the information that anybody in this industry can use to have rational, reasonable conversations with your neighbors about how important our industry is to the quality of life of the people in your community and in our country. I think back to, I started my career in the upstream, 1982. And in 1987, I decided to go jump to refining. I can still remember the Prudhoe Bay field manager putting his arm around me, telling me, "You don't want to do that, kid. It's a dying industry." Well, it's a slow death, right? And I don't think the death of our industry is any closer today than it was in 1987. So arm yourself with the facts and figures, and the fact that the liquid fuels you make and the petrochemical products that are made from the light ends that come out of our refineries make modern life possible, right? You think about artificial joints or heart stents that are in people. Our products are in there. People don't always think about that. They don't think about the fact that, 70% of the new car they're driving is made out of plastics, which start with hydrocarbons. What we do makes life possible. So arm yourself with some information. Be ready at Thanksgiving to take on Aunt May when she asks why you're not driving a Tesla or a Prius, and take her out and show her what a fine F-150 you drive. So
there you go. Well, Bob, thank you. Thank you for your words of inspiration this morning. Thank you for your long career in the oil and gas industry, and your safety leadership and the leadership of our industry, and taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Remember, everybody, just go do the right thing and you'll be fine. Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.